This Thrive Loud episode is brought to you by Hinge Consulting. Success on Amazon hinges on well-executed strategies. Contact Hinge Consulting to learn about total Amazon channel management and to see if your business has what it takes to grow over 300% over the next 12 months. That's Hinge Consulting at hingeconsulting.co.
Today on Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
We were able to shift out, and that gave us the confidence. It was sort of like that first move, like, okay, like I see this can work. I had recognized those wins earlier in my career and said, okay, this is the sign. We can do much more.
Now I'm getting really excited. Okay, this is the part where we're going to get loud.
Holy crap, here we go.
I like telling stories.
I learn best through experiences.
Everything I do is because of everything I did.
Talk about having maximum impact while having a ton of fun.
When you can net through that, what you do leave behind for your listener will have more impact.
Wow, bring it on.
It's time to take an inside look at those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I am so excited here because I have one of the more amazing people you are going to enjoy, Thrive Loud listeners, because today I bring you the president and creative director of Mara Hoffman, the Mara Hoffman. Mara, how are you today?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure to get to talk to you.
I know, and I would actually argue this is even a better pleasure because this is now the second time I've had the good fortune to interview you. Yes. We won't let all the listeners know when and where, but it came up from our interview over at Greenbacks, which many people would have seen. This time we wanted to make it a little bit more about this amazing thriver that you are, which is what is a great story about you and your brand, and talk about the success that you've had as an entrepreneur and as a designer. And really helping to change the world, which I think is awesome. And I know that our listeners are going to love it. So Mara, if you would, could you please give a little bit of your journey and let's get us started so that we can start the path on how this whole crazy rigmarole of a world that you've created came to be and continues to thrive as it has.
All right, let me give you the sort of short version of a very long story. I'll give you the highlights. So I'm from Buffalo, New York. I came to New York when I was 18 to go to school. I went to Parsons School of Design. And upon graduating, I was very uncertain of the fashion industry as a whole, in the sense that I didn't quite know where my place would be. My classmates were all vying for roles at houses like Donna Karan and Calvin Klein. This is the end of the 90s. And I really didn't resonate with those types of roles or the idea of sitting in a fashion company and drawing shirts, from 9 to 6. It just wasn't quite where my head was at. And I created all through school a lot of one-of-a-kind pieces, definitely more on like the art fashion side of things. And when I graduated and was in that place of uncertainty, I was continuing to make a lot of clothing and bringing it to friends who had consignment stores. And I was working quite a bit with stylists at the time that were working with the very beginning of celebrity, sort of, and how we know it. Just to give you sort of reference, like this time was right at the very beginning of like J-Lo and a little pre-Beyonce, like right on the precipice of like Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, that's just to like kind of date this. And
1990s-ish, I would guess, is what we're talking about.
Right before 2000. So I'm right at the end of the 90s. And I bring a bag of clothing that I had made to a friend's store and had a very kismet encounter with a woman named Patricia Fields, who is a New York City icon. and was really the driving force in the style behind Sex and the City. She was the show's stylist for all of its years. And this was, when I met her, it was the very beginning of that show. And she liked what I had on and ended up buying the bag of clothing. And she also had 2 stores in New York City at the time. And they were kind of like a headquarters for club kids in New York City, like where the coolest, weirdest stuff. And so she had her buyers call me the next day and we set up an appointment. They came to my small studio apartment above Curry in a Hurry on 28th and Lex. And I showed them what I had been making. And at the time, the stuff I was making was really based on like deconstruction. So I would take pieces and cut them up, like existing garments, cut them up, re-sew them together, dye them, sew beads on them, really kind of like put them through this process. So even though I could make multiples of one thing, they really had a one-of-a-kind feeling. The buyers liked what I was doing and placed an initial order for $5,000, which was, oh my God, I am the richest person on the planet now. And this is coming from like, you know, a student perspective of like at the time, $5,000 made me feel like the richest person in the world, which is kind of an amazing thing. And should almost always sort of have that feeling a bit. And that was the jump off. And this was 18 years ago. So I incorporated once I got it rolling, accepted that first order, handmade every piece, delivered it to the store. It gave me the confidence that I could maybe have something with this. So from that point, I made a few more samples and literally went store to store with a bag of clothing and cold called these stores that I really liked and that I would shop in or aspirationally maybe like window shop in. And I'd ask for their buyers and show them what I had been making. And I started my business that way. And I think it was just like on like kind of confidence and that idea, if you got nothing, you got nothing to lose. So no's weren't that big of a deal. And no's to me translated to, okay, cool, I'll see you next month. And I'd keep coming back until I'd get the order. And that was really the beginning of what my business would be. And fast forward, let's see, 5 years from that place, doing it, growing it, hiring people on a need basis. When I couldn't figure something out or I didn't have enough manpower myself, I would bring someone new onto the team to help me. And it's still, all of that work was very laborious, like lifting hand dyes, bringing things to the laundromat, scraping wax out of the boutiques. It was incredibly hands-on and very physical. And 5 years into that, I discovered that I could create prints. Mm. And I discovered that by sitting in the backyard with a stretched piece of silk on a canvas. And I painted on that piece and painted a lovely painting of these leaves, these kind of very primitive feeling leaves. And I brought them to an agent for a fabric mill in New York and said, can we turn this into printed silk? And they sent it to their mill and voila, I received my fabric. And that was the beginning of a very important part of my language as a brand. And that was prints and being able to expand a narrative and not have to physically make each one of these pieces. So that was a big turning point in the brand. And then 3 years after that, I launched swimwear, which again redefined where I was on an aesthetic level and really laid down a DNA for the brand at that time, which was very kind of bohemian-esque and traveled and a little bit psychedelic. And I really defined myself through what I was doing in swim. And it kind of married then to the ready to wear and began to really create a brand, and a brand with 2 categories to it and not just like, a person making a few pieces of clothing.
So Mara, let me jump in here because this is pretty impressive. Literally going door to door, helping to get businesses started, to see the success. And by the way, not that long of a period of time. And all of a sudden you have not only products, you have multiple lines, and you have a brand, as you just described. And by the way, most designers and artists couldn't believe that, the odds of this happening today with all the competition out there is really, really challenging and difficult. It's such a, just to become recognized and to put the sweat equity in and to really come out with something great. First of all, at this particular point in your career, was this like overwhelming to you, or was this just, was it amazing to you, or this is what your vision of what you had always had from the beginning?
Well, I think, I've always been pretty present, and I always have clung to joy. Like when it shows up, I really have enjoyed being in that state, and I usually seek it out. And so the process, although there's like a lot, and we can get into any of that, but it can be incredibly challenging running your own business. And also like all of this until this day has been independently run and without outside equity, really. So this definitely has had its challenges and limitations as I've gone, but I think that I've really just clung to the excitement of it happening. So as opposed to it being overwhelming, it was like invigorating, and a feeling of, also I think I've been really fortunate to felt each way that I belonged. Like I belonged in the stage that I was at, and I belonged in the success, and I belonged in the growth. And I think that that's such a huge part of success for anybody is like, ownership of where you are, and not feeling that you either need to be somewhere ahead of yourself or that you're not, that you're stuck behind yourself. So I've been really lucky in that. And I think that it's really helped my process, and it's really like helped me to continue to grow, is that I've always been pretty stoked on where I am.
So this is a perfect segue to something, and actually was eventually for the reason why we met. Your brand grew to good levels, to popularity and a recognition, which is challenging enough in itself, and started to launch to obviously not just, to the point that you were sewing every single piece yourself, but obviously a team of people, and being a designer and growing to a much larger amount of production and moving at a pace that is impressive. And then something happened, did it not? And I think our listeners would love to hear a little bit about this shift that eventually happened towards the brand of Mara Hoffman.
Absolutely. So I got to 15 years into this. It really flies by. I've got to say that. I think people say that about kids, but it also happens with businesses. And I had so deeply been in the process of running this independent business, and my focus up until this point had really been about growth and maintaining and being able to care for the employees and just keep a business running. And that is a challenge. And I had, started to tune in probably a few years before this point to the industry and really what was going on, like on an impact level, and the harm of the industry. But I had sort of tapped in this way of, oh man, there's no changing. At this point, I'm already this far into my process, and I'd really have to like start a new company if I were to change at this point. And it just felt completely like out of reach. And I had friends who had started their business based on a more sustainable ethos and plan for it, but I had not done that. And I had really just been focusing on growing this business. And I got to this point, again, 15 years in, where I really had a change or die moment. It came on very strong for me. And, I had balanced being able to sleep at night on some level. Like, it's okay, I'm not doing that much harm. My company is still not that big, but then that just shifted into no, I can't keep going. I can't do this. My son at that time was 3 years old. And I think that there was just this like feeling of awareness as well as to what he will do with all of the things that I have been making. And it will be up to his generation to figure out the mess that I and, everyone else in my industry has done. And what am I really doing? It wasn't a solo game anymore. I have this dependent, and it's not just caring for him right now. It's really thinking about, what am I leaving for him? And do I really want to leave him all this stuff? No. And so I didn't know really at all how that would look for me, but I knew that I would rather probably shut down at that point than go on in the way that I was without some plan of change towards sustainability. And so I brought these feelings to my director of production, and I said, what do we do here? And she said, well, let's just start. So we really started to dissect the brand as far as, okay, what are we doing? Let's really understand our process as it exists, and then dissect it to see what could we immediately do better and what could be long-term goals to do better. And that's where we started. And for us, the immediate was really diving into our materials and seeing where we could shift out fibers. And the lowest hanging fruit for us was in the swim category. And we had access to a fabric that we could replace our conventional fabric with. And the new one is composed of 70% recycled plastic bottles, and then the other 30 of either nylon or spandex. And we were able to shift out, and that gave us the confidence. It was sort of like that first move, like, okay, like I see this can work. I had recognized those wins earlier in my career and said, okay, this is the sign. We can do much more. And that is what we have done over the past 3 years, is we have dedicated ourselves to doing so much more within changing and being on this really there is no end point to sustainability. There's no claim as we are a sustainable brand. You cannot make that claim if you are manufacturing any new garments. Really, you can be a less harmful brand, and you can apply every effort to be more sustainable. And that is really what we've been doing. And it's been our life force within it. And from that, it's given me, again, so much more excitement and joy to be present with it.
I think it's so powerful. And to the Thrive Loud listeners, understanding that we're all looking in life and specifically in business to grow and get to new levels and continue to move on. And obviously, the people that work with you, they want to see the growth because they have a vested piece of it and they see the success in it. And to have your true north, if you would, so solid that you knew that what you were doing wasn't helping that next generation, and making that conscious change to shift gears. We've spoken about this personally, that, had you had outside investors, that would have been impossible to do. There would have been too much pressure to continue to grow and develop and build. And you fortunately were able to do that.
Absolutely.
And it's so powerful. It's such a great story, Mara. And not only for our listeners to hear here, but it continues to evolve and grow. And it's probably, in a weird way, maybe even made the brand more relevant and larger in years to come. Do you believe that?
I really do. I think that, whenever you move something into alignment, with your highest belief system, it lends itself to growth and success. When you're out of alignment with what you believe, it is nearly impossible to grow something. And so when you feel stuck with something, whatever you're doing, you really have to check. It's are you fully acting from your highest belief system? Do you believe what you're doing? Do you believe the methods that you're using? And if they're out of that, you're going to have issues. So for us and for me, I believe so deeply in the change that we made, and that belief then lends itself to everyone around me. And we did discuss that when you make these big kind of moves, you have to expect that not everybody around you is going to gracefully move in the same direction as you. There's always, and there's such a gift in that too. There really is gifts in the limitations and gifts in the people around you sometimes that don't believe in you, because they challenge your balance and your stand in what you want, which is a good thing, because the challenge can strengthen it. It's like any kind of muscle. You have to challenge the muscle to strengthen the muscle. And then it gives you an opportunity to make space. Like the people that didn't believe left, which was the greatest thing that could happen, because it gave me room for the people that did believe in what I was doing to come on board. And I always have such gratitude for that, really. In like anything that I do, you have to like, it's like that idea, rejection is protection. Yeah. It's the truth. And if we can just skew the way that we look at things, like as opposed to being, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to me, thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful this happened for me. And so,
right.
and that happened in the beginning for sure, because, you know, I even had accounts that were just like, you're crazy. You're walking away from money. You have this thing that's working. It's working. What are you doing? And I knew that if I didn't really stick to my guns on this, that I would ultimately let down all of these people that had been on this path with me who really did believe in me. So yeah, it worked.
It works. And it also segues to a signature question we ask here on Thrive Loud, Mara. And that is, when you have trouble thriving, who do you turn to get yourself back on the thriving track? Almost like, who's your personal sensei that you seek out? Because I imagine, and especially maybe specifically in the times that you went through that and everybody was telling you were crazy, there were people that were in your corner that really supported you and helped you out. And I think it'd be great for you to share with who you turn to in those moments.
Yeah, I've been really fortunate, but I think I've created the relationship. I know I've created every relationship in my life, as have all of us. So I have gratitude for creating like solid relationships with people that are like truly like based in respect and love. I am really fortunate to say that I've been able to speak to my mother through things. I have a very supportive husband. I kind of built a system really lovely for myself in that sense. And then some of the pillars within my company. And even though together, like, we were babies in this, and the majority of the people in my company have grown up with me. Like, they didn't do all of this in a company before and then come here and do it at this company. Like, we've grown up from like our 20s kids into some of this work. And so having that of a belief system and like believing in each other, and then a support system within that. And then I will give a plug, most recently, like in the past, and I highly recommend this, in the past 6 months, I've really like rabbit holed deep into a very motivational space. And I am a big fan of Abraham. And Abraham is, you got to go with me on this. Yeah. There's this woman, and I'm sure maybe a lot of your listeners know her. Her name is Esther Hicks, and she actually wrote the book, The Law of Attraction. And she is a channel, and she channels this entity who goes by the name of Abraham. And basically, the whole gist of it is clarifying your belief system. And it's just a reiteration of everything I'm doing, and reiteration of following your joy. And in that space, you create more and more and more of the things that you want. So really, at this point, I tap into that all the time, because it's like a cheerleader in my ear, and it really resonates for me. And I've been able to like make more amazing things happen from that space when I'm like clear with myself.
I love it. And Mara, by the way, when I ask that question, the range of things that have come, people, they go running, they do meditation, or they tap into certain things.
I will absolutely 100% plug for everybody that's listening to this. I know it can be an intimidating thing, but if you can incorporate meditation into your life, the rewards are so high. Just trust me on this one. Like, to sit without thoughts gives you such an advantage in anything that you're doing. I highly recommend it.
Love it. And I know many of our listeners continue to add TM or whatever it might be into their daily flow, which is great. Mara, what's the next big thing? Just looking, I know time is always a relevant piece, but as you look for the rest of this year, specifically for the Mara Hoffman brand, what's the next big thing that you're looking forward to that excites you about the business, or some of the products that maybe you're bringing to market?
Actually, today I'm really looking forward to. We are launching extended sizing for the brand, which is a really new thing and a big part of what we do. And our kind of commitment to sustainability really goes beyond just like the environmental and, human rights part of the manufacturing. But for me, it was a commitment to the least amount of harm, like across the board, how we communicate with women, how we, what it means to tell the truth in an industry that isn't always the most honest or loving. And so through that, inclusivity is a really big part of our, our language and what we do and what we put out there as a brand. So today is a big stepping stone for us in the fact that we are launching extended sizes. So sizes 14 through 20. And this was a big feat for us because I don't think people know the challenges of that when you're really working from size, 0 to 12 and then changing to add extended sizing means like whole different systems. And so we've gotten so much like, hey, when are you going to include more sizes? And it's something that I've really wanted to do. So today we offer a few of our styles, and I'm really excited about that. And you know what, Lou, I'm excited to grow my business from this new place. It really did take me these 3 years to like root, to get my grounding with this and to get other people to get on board, like to get the accounts that I wanted. It doesn't just happen overnight. I wasn't like, okay, I'm going to be this new thing now, and now I want everyone on board. It takes time to get people to believe you also. And now, like 3 years into this process, I feel like, okay, they're listening. And now I want to just like skyrocket from this place. And I'm really excited about that. And I know that I can do it. And it's from that same place of excitement and belief in what I do, but now I want to take it to the next level.
I love every bit of it. And that's why you're on Thrive Loud today, Mara, because this is the exact reason. For those who've ever met Mara in person or ever seen her, I have had the good fortune, and she has an energy about her that just exudes brilliance and confidence.
Yes. And you have such energy too. And so it's like, I love talking to you. Thank you. And thank you for bringing it out of people. What you do is really important and really special. And you need to keep doing it because you bring people to the forefront. You lend your microphone to bring like really great stuff, and the world needs to hear great stuff. So thank you for doing that.
I'm blushing and gloating all at the same time. So Mara, let's give the listeners all the plugs and places where they can find Mara Hoffman so they know where to go. Hearing it from you is better than hearing it from me.
Okay, cool. So check out what we make at www.mara, M-A-R-A, Hoffman, Hoffman.com, and explore all the new things that we're making. If you are an Instagram person, follow me at Mara Hoffman, all one word. Same handle for Twitter, same handle for Facebook. I personally run the Instagram and get really kind of more personal in that space. I think that's all the plugs.
And we talked about this before we went on the air. It is true. She does a spectacular job in the Instagram world with tons of followers and great imagery. She'll inject herself many times too with some of the models. And I'll say this, and this is so funny because the people who are more fashion conscious than I am, when they heard I was interviewing you today, they're like, stop. How are you going to be able to relate to this? I go, you just listen and you'll understand. So I'm utterly impressed with her at every level. So Mara, before I let you go, I got to ask you the signature question, which I know you stressed about before we What is your all-time favorite movie?
Oh man, I don't know if I have an all-time. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna just say, I'm going to say The Wizard of Oz.
Okay. That's classic. You can't go wrong.
It's a beautiful one. And there's a lot of good messages in it.
Very, very true. Mara Hoffman, truly an honor to have you on the show, and continued success. The direction you're heading with the brand and with your heart and your soul is awesome. And kudos to you.
Thank you.
And to all the Thrive Loud listeners out there, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thrive Loud. Or find us on the web at thriveloud.com.